At my sister's birthday party, my father demanded I gift her my $2 million penthouse. When I refused, he slapped me in front of 30 guests. My sister smirked. Someone was recording. I calmly picked up my earring and walked out. Then I made one phone call that destroyed them all. If you are watching this, kindly subscribe and let me know where you are watching from. And I hope that you're safe wherever you are. After 8 years of building my tech company from nothing, I thought I'd seen every form of family betrayal. I was wrong. That Saturday evening started like any other family obligation. My sister Emma's 30th birthday party at our parents' Buckhead mansion. The same house where I'd been overlooked for 3 decades, while Emma got everything handed to her on a silver platter. I pulled into the circular driveway, my Tesla looking modest next to the valet's parking Maseratis and BMWs. Mom had gone all out for her precious youngest daughter. Crystal chandeliers blazed through floor-to-ceiling windows. A jazz quartet played on the terrace. The guest list read like Atlanta's social register. I walked in wearing my best black dress, carrying a vintage wine that cost more than most people's rent. Emma floated past in designer silk, her laugh echoing off marble walls. She didn't acknowledge the gift. Never did. "There's our workaholic," Dad announced as I entered the main salon. His voice carried that familiar edge of disappointment. "Still no date, I see." Aunt Patricia nodded sympathetically. "All that success, but what's the point if you're alone?" Uncle James chimed in, swirling his whiskey. "Emma's got the right priorities. Family first." I forced a smile, watching Emma bask in their praise. 30 years old, never held a job for more than 6 months, still living in Mom and Dad's pool house. But somehow she was the success story, and I was the failure. Mom appeared beside me, her voice honey-sweet with poison underneath. "Darling, you really should consider settling down. Look how happy Emma is with Derek." She gestured toward Emma's latest boyfriend, a trust fund baby who spent his days playing golf. The familiar ache settled in my chest. These people shared my DNA, but had never truly seen me. My penthouse in Midtown, my company that employed 50 people, my patents that revolutionized data security, none of it mattered. I wasn't married. I wasn't giving them grandchildren. I was a disappointment wrapped in designer clothes. The jazz quartet finished their set as guests gathered around the birthday cake. Emma beamed, blowing out candles while everyone applauded. The photographer Dad hired captured every moment. Emma's perfect smile frozen in time. "Speech, speech," someone called out. Dad raised his champagne glass, his face glowing with pride. "My beautiful Emma," he began, his voice carrying across the room. 30 years of bringing joy to everyone around her. I felt the familiar twist in my stomach. This was how these family drama moments always went. Emma the princess, me the afterthought. But then Dad's expression changed. He looked directly at me, his smile taking on a calculating edge that made my skin crawl. "Actually," he said, his voice growing louder, "I have a special announcement tonight." The room went quiet. Even the servers stopped moving. Dad walked toward me, microphone in hand, that same predatory smile spreading across his face. "Tonight, we're going to witness true sisterly love." My blood turned to ice. Whatever was coming, I knew it would change everything. Dad's voice boomed through the microphone, as every guest turned to stare at me. "My generous daughter Sarah is gifting her penthouse to Emma as a birthday present." The words hit like a physical blow. 30 faces looked at me expectantly, some already starting to applaud. Emma gasped, pressing her hand to her chest in perfect surprise, but I caught the flicker of satisfaction in her eyes. This wasn't spontaneous. They'd planned this. "Dad, what are you talking about?" I managed my voice barely steady. He stepped closer, microphone still raised. "Emma's struggling to find her path. It's only fair that family helps family. Your penthouse would be perfect for her fresh start." Mom appeared at his side, her expression sympathetic but firm. "Sarah, you've been so blessed. Sharing with your sister is the right thing to do." The pressure built like a vice around my chest. Aunt Patricia nodded approvingly. "What a beautiful gesture, dear." Uncle James raised his glass. "To sisterly sacrifice." But I wasn't sacrificing anything. My penthouse, $2 million of blood, sweat, and sleepless nights. The home I'd earned through college coding competitions, failed startups, and finally breakthrough success. They wanted to hand it over like a birthday present to someone who'd never worked for anything. "No," I said quietly. The applause faltered. Dad's smile cracked. What did you say? His voice lost all warmth. I straightened my spine, looking him directly in the eye. I said no. I'm not giving Emma my penthouse. Gasps rippled through the crowd. Emma's perfectly painted lips formed a shocked "ord," but her eyes blazed with fury. She'd expected me to fold like always. Sarah, Mom's voice cut through the murmur. How can you be so selfish? Selfish. The word tasted bitter. I worked 18-hour days for that place. I built my company from nothing. That penthouse represents everything I've achieved, and you want to give it away because Emma can't be bothered to work. The guests exchanged uncomfortable glances. Someone's phone was already raised, recording the meltdown of Atlanta's Carter family. Dad's face reddened, veins bulging at his temples. You will not embarrass this family, like you're embarrassing me right now. I shot back, demanding my home in front of strangers. That's when he snapped. His hand moved faster than I could react. The slap cracked across my face like thunder. Pain exploded through my cheek, my head snapping sideways. My pearl earring flew off, skittering across the marble floor. The room went dead silent. 30 witnesses frozen in shock. Someone's phone recorded everything. Emma's hand covered her mouth, but I saw the glimmer of satisfaction in her eyes. I touched my burning cheek, tasted blood where I'd bitten my tongue. But I didn't cry, didn't scream, didn't give them the satisfaction. Instead, I bent down and picked up my earring, slipped it into my purse, looked directly at Emma, and gave her the coldest smile I could manage. Happy birthday, sis, I said, my voice steady as steel. Then I walked out, every step echoing in the silence. In the marble hallway, I pulled out my phone and scrolled to a contact I'd hoped never to use. Margaret Ashford, my godmother, the woman who'd been like a grandmother to me when my real family had failed. The woman whose family drama revenge stories had become legendary in Atlanta society. She answered on the first ring. Sarah, what's wrong, dear? Aunt Margaret, I whispered, my voice finally shaking. I need help. 20 minutes later, headlights swept across the mansion's driveway, but this wasn't just any car. This was Margaret Ashford's Rolls-Royce, followed by 2 black town cars. Margaret Ashford didn't just enter a room, she conquered it. At 75, she carried herself like the corporate queen she'd been before retirement. Silver hair pulled back in a perfect chignon. Chanel suit that cost more than most people's cars. Eyes like winter storms, capable of freezing enemies at 50 paces. She walked into that party like a venging angel, her heels clicking against marble with military precision. Behind her came 2 men in expensive suits, her lawyers, though they looked more like Secret Service agents. The jazz quartet stopped playing. Conversations died mid-sentence. Emma's birthday party ground to a halt as Atlanta's most powerful woman surveyed the scene with obvious displeasure. Good evening, Margaret said, her voice carrying despite its quiet tone. I trust everyone is enjoying themselves. Dad stepped forward, his earlier confidence crumbling. Margaret, what a surprise. We didn't expect. Of course you didn't. Her gaze cut him off mid-sentence. Daniel, I've just had the most interesting phone call from my goddaughter. Something about physical assault and extortion. Mom tried to smooth things over, her society smile wobbling. Margaret, surely there's been a misunderstanding. We're just family working things out. Working things out. Margaret's voice dropped to a whisper that somehow filled the entire room. Is that what you call striking a woman in front of witnesses for refusing to surrender her property? The guests shifted uncomfortably. Several phones had appeared, recording this unexpected drama. Emma stood frozen beside her birthday cake, probably realizing this wasn't going according to plan. One of Margaret's lawyers stepped forward, opening a leather portfolio. Mrs. Carter, we have documented evidence of tonight's assault, along with attempted coercion regarding property transfer. Dad's face went pale. This is family business, Margaret. You have no right. No right. Margaret's laugh was sharp as breaking glass. I have every right, Daniel. Particularly since I hold the mortgages on this house, your office building, and your precious boat. The words fell like bombs. Even I stared in shock. I'd known Margaret was wealthy, but this, what are you talking about? Mom stammered. Margaret's smile was arctic. Did you think your lifestyle was funded by Daniel's mediocre insurance business? I've been backing your family for 15 years. Every loan, every investment, every bailout when Daniel's poor decisions nearly bankrupted you. She walked deeper into the room, her presence making everyone shrink back. I invested in you because I believed you'd raise Sarah with the values her parents would have wanted. Instead, I've watched you favor one daughter while systematically destroying the other's self-worth. Emma finally found her voice. This is my birthday party. You can't just come in here and what, dear? Margaret's attention fixed on Emma like a laser. Prevent you from stealing your sister's home. Stop your father from physically assaulting the only family member who's actually accomplished anything. The second lawyer produced a thick stack of papers. Mr. Carter, these are the loan documents, all of them. Due to breach of our agreement regarding family conduct, we're calling in all debts immediately. Breach of agreement, Dad's voice cracked. The moral character clause, Margaret explained conversationally. Physical assault of a family member voids our contract. You have 30 days to pay in full. I watched the blood drain from Dad's face as he realized what this meant. The house, his business, their entire lifestyle, all built on Margaret's loans, all now due immediately. Mom sank into a chair, her perfect composure finally cracking. Margaret, please. We can work something out. Oh, we will, Margaret agreed. But not tonight. Tonight is about consequences. She turned to address the entire room, her voice carrying clearly to every witness. Let me be perfectly clear to everyone here. Sarah Carter is the only member of this family who has earned my respect. She built her success without handouts, without favoritism, without demanding others sacrifice their achievements for her benefit. Her gaze swept across the guests, many of whom were now recording openly. What you witnessed tonight, a father striking his daughter for refusing to surrender her property to her unemployed sibling, that represents everything wrong with this family. Emma was crying now, real tears replacing her calculated performance. This isn't fair, it's my birthday. Fair, Margaret's voice could have frozen fire. What's fair about demanding someone else's home as a birthday gift? What's fair about hitting a woman for standing up for herself? The room buzzed with whispers. Atlanta society lived for this kind of scandal, and they were witnessing the Carter family's complete destruction in real time. Margaret walked over to me, her expression softening slightly. Sarah, are you all right? I nodded, still processing everything I'd learned. I had no idea about the loans. You weren't supposed to. I wanted your parents to succeed on their own. She glanced back at Dad with disgust. Clearly that was overly optimistic. One of the lawyers approached Dad with official-looking documents. Mr. Carter, you're being served with formal notice. 30 days for full repayment, or we begin foreclosure proceedings. Dad's hands shook as he took the papers. Around us, guests began murmuring, some already texting or calling friends. By morning everyone in Atlanta would know about tonight. But Margaret wasn't finished. She smiled, and somehow that was more terrifying than her anger had been. Oh, and Daniel, there's one more thing. Margaret's smile grew predatory as she nodded to her second lawyer. Thomas, please explain Mr. Carter's business situation. Thomas opened another portfolio, his voice professionally neutral. Mr. Carter, your insurance agency has been operating under our commercial loans for the past 8 years. Due to tonight's breach of contract, those are also being called immediately. Dad's face went gray. You can't do this. I have clients, employees. You have 30 days, Margaret interrupted smoothly. The same timeline as your personal debts. She walked to the center of the room, addressing the stunned guests like she was hosting her own party. Ladies and gentlemen, I hope you're enjoying Emma's birthday celebration, though I suspect it will be her last in this house. Mom stood shakily, her voice barely a whisper. Margaret, please, think about what you're doing to Emma. She's innocent in all this. Innocent. Margaret's laugh was sharp. Emma knew exactly what was happening tonight. Look at her face. This was planned. She expected Sarah to cave like always, to sacrifice her success for Emma's convenience. I studied my sister's expression and saw the truth. The calculated timing, Dad's prepared speech, even Emma's designer dress chosen for maximum impact on social media. They'd orchestrated this public humiliation to pressure me into compliance. Have you ever wondered why some family drama escalates beyond all reason? It's because enablers never face consequences for their behavior. Tonight, that changed. Emma wiped her tears, trying to regain composure. I never asked for Sarah's penthouse. Dad suggested, "Don't lie to me, child." Margaret's voice cut through Emma's protestations. "I've watched you manipulate your parents for decades. Every crisis conveniently requiring money. Every opportunity that never materialized. Every excuse for why you couldn't support yourself like Sarah has." The guests were riveted, phones capturing every moment of this family revenge story unfolding in real time. Atlanta society would feast on this scandal for months. Derek, Emma's boyfriend, finally found his voice. "This is insane. You can't destroy people over a family argument." Margaret turned her attention to him, her smile arctic. "Mr. Hartwell, isn't it? Tell me, how much did you know about tonight's plan?" Derek's confident facade cracked. "I don't know what you mean." "Really? Because my investigators discovered some interesting text messages between you and Emma. Something about finally getting that penthouse, and Sarah always gives in eventually." She nodded to Thomas, who produced printed screenshots. Even from across the room, I could see Derek's name on the messages. "My sister's boyfriend had been part of the conspiracy. You investigated us." Dad's voice was hoarse with shock. "I investigate all my investments, Daniel. When Sarah called me in tears last month about increasing family pressure, I decided to protect my interests." Margaret's eyes were steel. "Imagine my surprise discovering this elaborate scheme to defraud my goddaughter of her property. Last month, I remembered that conversation, pouring out my frustrations about family expectations during one of our quarterly dinners. I'd had no idea Margaret was taking notes." The first lawyer stepped forward again. "Mrs. Carter, we also have evidence of your attempts to pressure local businesses into refusing Sarah's accounts, trying to force her to move back home by sabotaging her independence." Mom went white. "That's not the country club membership committee, the charity boards that suddenly found reasons to exclude Sarah." Margaret's voice was conversational, but her words cut like knives. "Did you think I wouldn't notice when you tried to socially isolate my goddaughter?" I stared at my mother, pieces clicking into place. The sudden coldness from organizations I'd supported for years. Invitations that stopped coming. I'd assumed it was because I was too busy with work. "You've been sabotaging me," I whispered. Mom's shoulders sagged in defeat. "We just wanted you closer to family. By destroying my social connections. By isolating me until I had no choice but to depend on you." The betrayal cut deeper than Dad's slap. "How long has this been going on?" 2 years, Margaret answered for her. "Ever since Sarah's company really took off. They couldn't stand watching her succeed independently." Emma was sobbing now, her perfect birthday ruined. "I never wanted any of this. I just wanted you wanted Sarah's life." Margaret finished. "Her success, her home, her independence. But you wanted it without the work, without the sacrifice, without earning it." The jazz quartet had long since packed their instruments. Servers stood frozen with empty trays. The birthday party had become a wake for the Carter family's reputation. "Here's what happens next," Margaret announced, her voice carrying to every corner of the room. "Sarah walks away from all of you. No more financial support, no more emotional manipulation, no more sacrificing her well-being for your failures." She looked directly at me, her expression gentler than I'd seen all night. "Sarah, you have a choice. Cut ties completely, or watch them drag you down with them." Before I could respond, Derek's phone rang. He glanced at it, his face going pale. I have to take this." He stepped away, speaking in urgent whispers. Emma watched him with growing panic, and I realized whatever news he was receiving might be the final blow to her perfectly planned evening. When Derek returned, his face was ashen. He looked at Emma like she was a stranger. "We need to talk," he said quietly, privately. But in the silence of the destroyed party, there was no privacy. Everyone heard Emma's sharp intake of breath, saw Derek's obvious distress. Whatever that phone call had been about, it was about to make this revenge story even more devastating. Derek's voice carried across the silent room as he faced Emma. "That was my mother. She's seen the video." Video. My stomach dropped as I realized someone had already posted footage of Dad slapping me online. In today's world, family drama went viral in minutes. What video? Emma whispered, though we all knew. Derek held up his phone, showing her the screen. Even from across the room, I could see the view count climbing rapidly. 40,000 views in 20 minutes. It's everywhere. Margaret smiled with grim satisfaction. The beauty of social media. Truth travels faster than spin. Dad lunged for Derek's phone. Delete that. Delete it now. I didn't post it. Derek backed away. Someone at the party did. It's already been shared hundreds of times. Mom sank deeper into her chair, the full scope of their disaster becoming clear. In Atlanta's social circles, reputation was everything. A viral video of Daniel Carter striking his daughter would destroy them. Emma grabbed Derek's arm desperately. This doesn't change anything between us. We can work through this. But Derek was already shaking his head, his disgust evident. Emma, I watched you smile when your father hit your sister. You planned this whole thing. I didn't know he would hit her. Emma's voice cracked with panic. But you knew about the rest. Derek's voice was flat with disappointment. The manipulation, the pressure campaign, trying to steal her property. My family can't be associated with this. The rejection hit Emma like a physical blow. She'd counted on Derek's support, his family's money and connections. Without him, she had nothing. Margaret's lawyer approached her with another set of documents. Miss Carter, since you're named in several of these fraud attempts, you're also being served. Emma's voice was barely a whisper. Attempting to obtain property through coercion and manipulation, Thomas explained. Conspiracy to commit extortion. Your text messages with Mr. Hartwell provide excellent evidence. As Emma stared at the papers in shock, Derek moved toward the exit. I'm sorry, Emma, but this is who you really are, and I can't pretend otherwise anymore. He left without another word, taking Emma's last hope with him. She collapsed onto a chair, clutching the legal papers, her perfect birthday dress wrinkled and tear-stained. But the humiliation wasn't over. More phones buzzed around the room as guests received calls and messages. The video was spreading through Atlanta society like wildfire, and everyone wanted to distance themselves from the Carter family disaster. Daniel, Uncle James approached Dad with obvious reluctance. I think Patricia and I should leave. Dad looked at him desperately. James, your family. You understand how difficult Sarah can be. I understand that I just watched you assault your daughter on camera. Uncle James's voice was cold. Don't contact us again. One by one, guests made their excuses and fled. The social death of the Carter family was happening in real time, and no one wanted to be caught in the blast radius. Aunt Patricia paused near the door, her voice carrying back to us. 30 years I've known this family. 30 years of excuses for Emma, criticism of Sarah. I should have spoken up sooner. Soon only immediate family remained in the wreckage of Emma's birthday party. The catered food sat untouched, champagne going flat in abandoned glasses. The birthday cake, with its cheerful message, looked obscene in the devastation. Could you imagine watching your entire social circle abandon you in one night? Because that's exactly what happened to the Carter family, as Atlanta society turned its back on them. Margaret checked her phone, her smile growing wider. 75,000 views now. The local news stations are picking it up. The news. Mom's voice was hollow with horror. Domestic violence is always newsworthy, Margaret replied conversationally, especially when it involves wealthy families and property disputes. Dad finally seemed to grasp the full scope of their destruction. His business relied on trust and reputation. A viral video of him striking his daughter would kill his client relationships overnight. Margaret, please, he tried one last desperate appeal. We can make this right. Sarah can have whatever she wants. What Sarah wants, Margaret's voice turned deadly serious, is what she should have had from birth. A family that supports her instead of tearing her down. Since you've proven incapable of that, she'll create her own family. She turned to me, her expression softening. Sarah, you don't owe these people anything. Not forgiveness, not reconciliation, not another chance to hurt you. I looked around the destroyed party, at my parents' desperate faces and Emma's complete breakdown. For 30 years I'd tried to earn their love and respect. Tonight had taught me it was impossible. You're right, I said quietly. I'm done. Emma looked up from her legal papers, mascara streaking her cheeks. Sarah, please. I'm your sister. No, I replied, my voice steady and clear. A sister wouldn't have planned this. A sister wouldn't have smiled when Dad hit me. A sister wouldn't have spent years trying to sabotage my independence. I walked toward Margaret and her lawyers, leaving the Carter family behind physically and emotionally. Where are you going? Mom called desperately. I paused at the doorway, looking back one final time at the people who'd given me life but never truly supported it. I'm going home, I said, to my penthouse, the one I earned myself. As we left the mansion, Margaret's driver held the Rolls-Royce door open for us. Behind us, the Carter family sat in the ruins of their former lives, finally understanding what they'd lost. But as we pulled away, Margaret's phone rang. Her expression grew serious, as she listened to whoever was calling. Well, she said when she hung up, it seems Derek's family isn't the only one distancing themselves from the Carters. Sarah, you should know. Your parents are about to discover exactly how much their reputation was worth. The next morning, I woke in my penthouse to 137 missed calls. The video had exploded overnight, 3 million views and climbing. Every major news outlet in Georgia was covering the story. Tech CEO assaulted by father over property dispute dominated local headlines. But the real devastation was happening to my parents. Margaret called while I was drinking coffee and watching the sunrise over Atlanta's skyline. Sarah, dear, you need to see the business section. Dad's insurance agency was in free fall. The article detailed clients fleeing en masse, unwilling to trust their policies to a man who'd physically assault his own daughter over money. The state insurance board had opened an investigation. 3 major corporate accounts had already terminated their contracts. My phone rang again. Mom's number. I'd been declining their calls all morning, but finally answered. Sarah, please. Mom's voice was broken, desperate. We need to talk. The reporters are outside our house. Dad's lost half his clients already. I'm sorry that's happening to you, I said calmly. But it's not my problem anymore. How can you say that? We're family. The word families felt like a joke now. Family doesn't plan elaborate schemes to steal each other's property. Family doesn't physically assault each other. Family doesn't spend years systematically sabotaging each other's happiness. I could hear Dad shouting in the background, something about lawyers and damage control. The irony wasn't lost on me. They'd brought lawyers into this, just not the ones they'd expected. The house, Mom whispered. Margaret says we have 30 days, but the bank won't extend our credit. We'll lose everything. Maybe you should have thought about that before Dad slapped me on camera. Sarah, please. Her voice cracked completely. Emma's devastated. Derek's family has completely cut her off. She's getting death threats on social media. For just a moment, I felt a flicker of sympathy. Then I remembered Emma's satisfied smile when Dad's hand connected with my face. Then maybe she shouldn't have orchestrated the whole thing, I replied. After hanging up, I called my assistant to clear my schedule. Margaret had arranged for us to meet with several news outlets who wanted my side of the story. The Carters had tried to control the narrative for 30 years, not anymore. The interview with Channel 5 went live that afternoon. I sat composed and professional, explaining the years of manipulation and emotional abuse that had led to Saturday night's confrontation. My family demanded I surrender my home, a property I purchased with my own money, earned through my own work, to my unemployed sister as a birthday gift. I said directly to the camera. When I refused, my father struck me in front of 30 witnesses. The interviewer leaned forward. What would you say to viewers who think family should come first? Real family does come first, I replied. But real family supports your success instead of trying to steal it. Real family celebrates your achievements instead of undermining them. What happened Saturday night wasn't family behavior. It was abuse. By evening, that interview had been viewed over 1 million times. The comments section was overwhelmingly supportive, with hundreds of people sharing their own stories of family manipulation and financial abuse. But the support that mattered most came from an unexpected source. Margaret and I were having dinner at her favorite restaurant when the maitre d' approached our table. Miss Carter, there's a gentleman here who'd like to speak with you. He says he's from your company. Marcus, my lead developer, stood nervously nearby. Behind him were 6 more of my employees. We saw the news, Marcus said. We wanted you to know that everyone at the company supports you completely. What your family did was inexcusable. Sarah, my head of marketing, stepped forward. We've already prepared a statement for the tech blogs. The entire staff signed it. I was too moved to speak for a moment. These people had become more family to me than my biological relatives ever were. Thank you, I managed. That means everything. After they left, Margaret smiled across the table. See, you do have family, Sarah. You've built it yourself. My phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. When I opened it, my blood went cold. It was from Emma. I know where you live. This isn't over. I showed the message to Margaret, whose expression hardened. Forward that to the lawyers immediately. And Sarah. Yes? It might be time to consider more permanent protection measures. As we left the restaurant, photographers waited outside. The Carter family story had grown beyond local news into a national conversation about family manipulation and domestic abuse. But something in Emma's message suggested the worst was yet to come. That night, security cameras captured a figure lurking outside my building. The person was too far away to identify clearly, but the timing wasn't coincidental. Why do some people refuse to accept consequences for their actions? Because they've never truly faced them before. But Emma was about to learn that her reign of manipulation was finally over. The next morning brought news that would change everything. Margaret called at 6 a.m., her voice tight with controlled anger. Sarah, you need to know what Emma did last night. Emma had made a desperate attempt to break into my building's parking garage at 3 a.m. Security footage showed her trying to jimmy open my Tesla, probably planning to vandalize it. The cameras caught everything, including her face clearly visible under the LED lighting. She's been arrested, Margaret informed me over breakfast. Attempted breaking and entering, criminal trespass, stalking. The police found the threatening texts on her phone too. I stared out my penthouse windows at the city I'd conquered through hard work and determination. Below, Atlanta hummed with morning traffic, people going about their lives while my family's world crumbled. How are Mom and Dad handling it? Terribly. Daniel's lost another 15 clients since yesterday's news coverage. The insurance board has suspended his license pending investigation. Susan's been dropped from 3 charity boards. Margaret set down her coffee cup with deliberate precision. Sarah, I need to tell you something else. I've been planning this for longer than you realize. I looked at her questioningly. Your success, your penthouse, even your company. I've been an invisible investor the entire time. Small amounts, always structured to look like legitimate venture capital. I wanted to ensure you'd never be financially vulnerable to your parents' manipulation. The revelation hit me like lightning. You've been backing me for years. 7 years, to be precise. Ever since you started your first company, and your parents tried to convince you it was a waste of time. Margaret's smile was fierce with pride. I've watched you build something extraordinary, Sarah. You think you did it alone, but you never were alone. Tears stung my eyes. While my biological family had undermined my every achievement, Margaret had quietly supported my dreams. There's more, she continued. I'm formally adopting you as my legal heir. The paperwork is already in motion. I couldn't speak, couldn't breathe. After 30 years of feeling like an outsider in my own family, someone finally wanted to claim me. My phone buzzed with another news alert. Emma's arrest had made the morning shows. The story was evolving from domestic violence into a complete family revenge saga that had captured national attention. But the real shock came when I arrived at my office that afternoon. A crowd had gathered outside the building. Not protesters, supporters. People holding signs reading, "Justice for Sarah and family abuse is never okay." 3 news vans lined the street. Inside, my staff was handling dozens of interview requests. My story had resonated with thousands of people who'd experienced similar family manipulation. Orders for our software had tripled overnight, as people chose to support a company that stood against abuse. Sarah, my marketing director, rushed over with a tablet showing our website traffic. We've received over 500 partnership inquiries since yesterday. Tech companies, law firms, domestic violence organizations, everyone wants to work with us. Success had always been my refuge from family disappointment. Now it was becoming my weapon against their destruction. That evening, I met with a producer from a major streaming service. They wanted to option my story for a limited series about family manipulation and financial abuse. This kind of revenge story resonates with millions of viewers, she explained. The David versus Goliath narrative, the family drama, the ultimate triumph. It's compelling television. I thought about Emma in jail, Dad's ruined business, Mom's social exile. Their attempt to destroy me had backfired spectacularly, turning me into a symbol of resistance against family bullying. Before I agree, I said I want assurance that the focus stays on the real issue: how families weaponize guilt and obligation to exploit successful members. Absolutely. This isn't about revenge for revenge's sake. It's about breaking cycles of abuse and manipulation. As I signed the preliminary agreement, my phone rang. It was a number I didn't recognize, but something made me answer. "Sarah, it's Derek." Emma's ex-boyfriend sounded exhausted, defeated. I needed to apologize. I saw the arrest footage. I had no idea Emma was capable of what? Stalking, breaking and entering, or just of showing her true face when things didn't go her way. All of it. I thought I knew her, but everything that happened Saturday night, and now this. His voice trailed off. "I wanted you to know that I've given a statement to police about the text messages, about how much Emma knew ahead of time. It was the final nail in my sister's coffin." Derek's testimony would prove premeditation, turning Emma's actions from impulsive family drama into calculated criminal behavior. After hanging up, I walked to my penthouse windows and looked out at the city that had become my kingdom. 6 months ago, I'd been the family disappointment, constantly criticized and undervalued. Tonight, I was the CEO of Atlanta's fastest-growing tech company, heir to Margaret's fortune, and the subject of a major streaming series. But the sweetest victory came the next morning. 6 months later, I stood on the stage at the Georgia Technology Excellence Awards, holding the Crystal Trophy for Entrepreneur of the Year. The ballroom was packed with Atlanta's business elite, the same social circle that had once whispered about my parents' golden child. In the audience, Margaret beamed with pride from the front row. My employees filled an entire table, cheering loudly when my name was announced. These were my real family now. As I gave my acceptance speech, I spotted familiar faces in the crowd. Not friends, journalists covering my ongoing success story. The streaming series about my family drama had premiered 3 weeks ago to massive ratings, cementing my transformation from family scapegoat to national inspiration. "This award represents more than business achievement," I said into the microphone, my voice carrying clearly through the ballroom. "It represents the power of refusing to accept other people's limitations on your potential." The audience erupted in applause, but I wasn't finished. Some of you know my story by now. How family members can become your greatest obstacles. How people who claim to love you might actually fear your success. Tonight, I want every person watching to remember that you don't owe anyone your dreams. As I left the stage, trophy in hand, I felt a tap on my shoulder. I turned to see a young woman, maybe 25, with tears in her eyes. "Miss Carter, I just wanted to thank you. My family has been pressuring me to give up my medical school dreams to help run their restaurant. After seeing your story, I found the courage to say no." She wasn't the first person to tell me something similar. My refusal to surrender to family manipulation had inspired thousands of others to stand up for themselves. The after-party was held on the roof of Atlanta's tallest hotel. As I mingled with investors and fellow entrepreneurs, my phone buzzed with a news alert that made my blood run cold. Emma had been released from jail that morning, after serving her 6-month sentence. But before I could worry about what that meant, Margaret appeared beside me with champagne and devastating news. "Daniel and Susan lost the house yesterday," she said calmly. "Foreclosure went through. They're moving to a rental apartment in Marietta. Dad's insurance business had completely collapsed during Emma's trial. Mom's social standing never recovered from the viral video. They'd lost everything: money, reputation, respect, while I'd gained it all." "And Emma?" I asked. Margaret's smile was sharp as winter. "Has been applying for minimum wage jobs. No one will hire her. The background checks always turn up the arrest record and news coverage. Perfect justice." Emma had spent 30 years avoiding work while expecting others to support her. Now she'd discover what survival actually required. As if summoned by our conversation, my phone rang. Emma's number. After 6 months of silence, my sister was reaching out. I considered declining, but curiosity won. "Hello, Emma." "Sarah." Her voice was different, smaller, defeated. "I know you probably don't want to hear from me, but I needed to say something." I waited. "I'm sorry, Not because I got caught or because everything went wrong. I'm sorry because you were right. About everything. I did know what Dad was planning. I did want your penthouse. I did think you owed me your success. The admission should have felt victorious. But instead I just felt tired. Why are you telling me this now? Because sitting in jail for 6 months gave me time to think about who I really was, and I realized I'd become someone terrible. Someone who smiled when their sister got hit. Someone who tried to steal instead of earn. She paused, and I heard tears in her voice. I don't expect forgiveness. I don't expect another chance. I just wanted you to know that you were never the problem. We were. For the first time in our relationship, Emma sounded genuinely remorseful, but some betrayals cut too deep for apologies to heal. I appreciate you saying that, I replied carefully. But it doesn't change anything between us. I know. I hope someday you can be happy without thinking about us. After hanging up, I stood on that hotel rooftop, looking out over the city I'd conquered. The streaming series had been renewed for a second season. My company was going public next month. Margaret and I were planning a European vacation to celebrate my adoption finalization. The Carter family name was ruined, but the Sarah Carter name was golden. As the party continued around me, I realized Emma had given me an unexpected gift with that final call. Closure. The last piece of guilt or obligation that might have held me back was finally gone. My revenge story was complete, not because I'd destroyed my family, they'd done that themselves, but because I'd refused to let them destroy me. If this story resonated with you, please give it a like and share it with someone who needs to hear that they're worth more than other people's expectations. And don't forget to subscribe for more stories about standing up for yourself, no matter the cost. Your dreams are worth fighting for, and you don't owe anyone your success. Until next time, remember, the best revenge is living well.